see that everyone's here, everyone's present. We're going to go into item number 3, Citizens Forum. I don't think anybody has signed up. Nobody is here other than a handful of people. We're going to move on to item number 4, discussion and consensus regarding the property tax rate.
Mayor and Council, at the last budget workshop last Thursday, we didn't have the final values from the appraisal district or the tax assessor. We did receive those over the weekend. The 2022 no new revenue rate came in at 1477 per 100 valuation, and then the voter approval rate came in at 0.3777 per 100 valuation. Like all of Montgomery County and pretty much all of Texas, we had historical increases to appraised value based on current values and not new. Current properties and not just added new. We had about a 21.33% increase of overall taxable value, and typically we see a 3 to 4%. This item is just kind of get a consensus that in the meeting after this meeting, we do have to have a vote saying if we're going to go with the NNR or lower, or we're going to open the possibility to go with it or above or lower. It just triggers a public hearing based on truth and taxation laws. So if there's any discussion or any questions, I'm free to answer anything, or if you just want to have a discussion about that tax rate.
Well, based on what the information you got $1,463,699,384 of
Taxable value?
taxable value, correct? So if we're doing 45% in M&O and 55% factors, basically, that gives us 963,000.
So
those ratios change.
We eliminate that ratio. It was an old practice that was not recommended, and we changed that so that.
I'm just looking at the past, so.
Yeah. And then there was always that transfer record that would go from non-department general fund over to the debt service. Our financial advisor, even the tax assessor said that's not a very good practice, so we changed it this year. It was something that was historically done and just never changed.
To what? To what, isn't it?
Oh, so when I get the final rate, basically the portion that will go to INS will cover exactly what the debt is. I'll factor that share, and then the remainder will go into the general fund. So it's like, I think it's 2.035.
So how are we going to approve it next if it's still a variable? So we're just going to approve the no new revenue rate? That's really all you're looking at?
The vote tonight is just to say if you're going to go with it, with the NNR or below, or if you want to open that option up to go above. That's what that vote is. Because per truth and taxation laws and SB 2, Senate Bill 2, is that if you vote to open up that possibility of going above, you have to, it automatically triggers a public hearing.
So you'll have all that?
I'm sorry, I couldn't
You'll have all of that in that meeting?
By the actual next council meeting?
If you want to go above the 1477.
We have no ramifications of what we do. That's the whole point.
It was added to the agenda pack for the next meeting, and we're doing it in that meeting because the public notice stated that it would start at 7 o'clock, so the vote will take place. This is just to try and get a consensus prior to the regular meeting.
It was just if there's any other questions about property taxes. It was a generic agenda item. Just because we didn't have the values, and when we were making the agenda, we still didn't have the values, so we just wanted to make sure we had enough time to talk about it.
So I think we could go the NNR rate, and it's just my opinion, and just the expenditures.
Well,
if need be.
I would agree with that. I think there's a change that was produced, and we talked about that, so I want to steal your thunder there, but we've seen incredible growth, and we've been incredibly conservative on our sales tax numbers, and we've been consistently coming up way over those numbers. So I'm going to point out that we have adjusted the budget to be a little bit more realistic, while I still think we're being conservative, But we're just getting a little closer to realism, and in doing so, it's pretty clear that our sales tax numbers can cover our expenses.
And the
So-
fog of COVID is lifting.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think, you know, what, so we have 2 years of 10% growth each year, and we've only been budgeting for roughly 5%. So you bumped it to,
I have sales tax coming in at 7.8 million this year.
yeah,
So that's
And then
just
there's other
300
fees.
300,000 more than what you got.
Yeah.
Exactly.
7,560,000.
Because when I create those numbers, I still am behind the 8 ball, 2 months with accruals, and then, so, we did get our sales tax drop today, emailed all of you, it was up about 6% from last year. Those also don't include Adidas numbers, Crawfish Cafe numbers, there's a lot that's been opening, Bye Bye Baby's gonna be opening soon, so a lot of that's gonna factor into that as well. Sam Moon Group has had some leases executed, so hopefully they're gonna be up and running. So you're gonna have a lot of new revenue from that as well as, increased revenue to this area
I
from
just want to be clear
pre-existing.
for everybody, we have expected income, and we have good data that supports that expected income to cover the fact, I know some people have mentioned, well, there's a lot of expenses. We increased our salary in order to maintain our staff. We may be talking about doing some staff growth, and we've covered that by appropriately budgeting sales tax. Instead of having a whole lot of money to sort out later, we're saying we're going to commit to that in the budget itself.
Also notice I adjusted the revenues for interest. Tax pool's doing really well right now, so we're gonna start throwing more money, available cash into there to just accumulate interest. It'll just sit there. It's a very low it's no risk, basically. It's an account. And then with the Allegiance Bank has a very good earned credit rate into, so we're starting to see interest with that as well. So the past 2 years we haven't, when I looked back prior to COVID, we were making almost $25,000 worth of interest, and then it dropped to like $1,000 because of just the financial economy. So we should be bringing in some good revenue, interest revenue as well.
So are we at a point of talking about this consensus of NNR?
So if,
I've always been for, as I was last year.
Right.
No new tax rate. So I'm still there. With obviously adopting this no new tax rate and dropping our current tax rate from 17.99 to 14.77, how does that affect overall? So I know where we kind of left off in budget workshop. We still had capital improvement projects we were talking about. So kind of where are we at on those numbers? If we can talk about that across the board.
so do you want to move on to, I guess, item 5?
Well,
You want to stay on this item? Okay.
I think it's important. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're asking us for a consensus on the no new tax rate,
Oh,
but we
yeah.
haven't talked about any of the other
Oh, yeah.
stuff, how can we get
No, you're good.
consensus on
So-
no new tax rate?
So,
I'm just curious.
so the projects that were that were approved by consensus at the workshop were the PD, it changed to total parking lot, not just PD parking lot.
So can you just give, before we get into every
Uh-huh.
line item, can you kind of just give us a synopsis of, these are the revenues that we anticipate coming in based on this tax rate? These are the expenditures that we have that are just budgetary items, and where we
Yeah.
fall in that budget? And then also, can you give us the total of what we talked about as the consensus of approving in the budget workshop, and kind of where that leaves us as a deficit or where we're
Yeah.
at?
Do we need to table 4, and so we can talk about 5 and 6, and then circle back for 4?
Yeah, we can do that.
We can do that, okay.
Make a motion to table.
Second.
Give a motion to table item number 4 and jump to item 5,
Yes.
is that correct? Any,
Sorry, let
Any
me do this real
discussion?
quick.
none?
Who
All in
seconded?
favor?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Okay.
Ted? Okay, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes, carried.
Lisa, that spreadsheet you sent out earlier, would that be helpful in this discussion?
I'm doing it, yeah, Chris
Okay.
has it, if
Okay.
you wanna pull it up. With the PDF version of it, because I have the Excel open.
Hard to see on the screen.
Okay, so with the summary of changes, right there, your revenue has increased to $10,433,002. And then the expenditures have decreased to $10,040,450, yielding a surplus, a budget surplus of $392,552. So, and then when you look at the projects and purchases that were kind of consensus to go forward, you're looking at $477,000 worth of that at this point. So that would, so you have a little bit of a difference between what your budget surplus is and, sorry.
Sorry.
Where are you getting all these?
I'm looking at the
Yeah.
same page on my screen. What's the
He
400?
asked me to add in the pre-existing revenues, add to the revenues and the pre-existing expenditures and take out the difference and then get your new total of surplus.
Gotcha, so that's not this.
No,
That's
yeah, that's
not
what he just
reflected on the
asked.
screen.
Gotcha,
Sorry.
Gotcha, okay,
That's
okay.
why I was trying to.
I apologize.
I
So-
was searching the spreadsheet.
No, you're good.
All right.
So- But when I add that in, it should have the same difference. Yeah, the 84 number.
So that is assuming, to be clear, that's assuming that we were to fund all the stuff in gray out of operational expenses.
Yes, against the budget revenues,
Right.
yes.
As opposed to taking at least some of that from
Available
available
cash.
cash,
Yes, exactly.
which is what I would, I mean, if we just funded PD parking lot out of available cash, that alone would put us in the positive.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yep.
So that's what I would propose we do.
Is that funding the whole
Just
project?
the 150.
The design.
we're talking about.
Design.
Just the design.
Once we get the design back, we'll have a real cost, and then whether that's December, whenever we think that design's gonna come back, then we'll know what we're doing, and if, we'll still have available cash, but we'll have
Right.
a better handle on it.
Is that the only,
Design, Mike, or
That's
feasibility?
Design.
Yeah, the 150 is just design,
It's a
cost
guess.
estimate. Yeah, I
It's
don't
a
have
guess.
I don't have a solid number yet from Blau Engineering on that.
Yeah.
so we're okay leaving everything else in
Can you
there?
give me a
other
solid
than
number?
PD?
Number 380.
Yeah, so if everyone's good with that, take out the 150 design and have that just paid out of available cash and everything else hit the revenue, I can have that document generated by the next meeting.
Yeah,
Okay. So we'll do that.
45 minutes.
So I guess back,
And then-
yeah.
If we can talk for a minute about, so if we do this project as available cash rather than as a budget item, I mean, obviously it's a budget item because but it's coming through available cash, not through,
Not against the revenues.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, so that type of a project, we could do at any time, is that correct? Without it being
Yes.
an actual.
As long as
But-
council approves it. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted that to be clarified, so that way, you know, the public understands what we're doing with the budget and how the capital project could differ from available cash.
Yeah, the available
I didn't want to
cash.
walk through it too, I didn't want us to say, you know, this is what we want to do, but
No.
there'll be a lot of questions later.
Yeah.
I want it to be covered and
Yeah.
open so everybody understands that process.
And available cash, just on the record as well, for an explanation, it is our cash balance once you take out the reserve requirement of 180 days. That is the balance that you have left as available cash.
So it doesn't affect any of our reserve.
No, not the 180 days by policy, no.
And it's not it's not assuming future revenues coming in. It's just utilizing what we have today.
Yes.
Any further discussion on this item?
So how do we track available cash or unencumbered cash or
So
whatever you want
I use the balance sheet every month, and then I use the claim on cash, and then the text pool funds as well, add them together.
That you offset the expenditure.
And we have a separate fund for the 180, so that's in a separate fund. So the Fund 100 will only show that balance of cash that's,
The available
not
cash.
allocated to that 180 days.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Any more discussion? All right. So having discussed that, do you want to go back to item number 4?
Do y'all want to look at the surplus first, or?
We can talk on we're
Yeah,
here,
let's
might
talk
as well
about
just
the
talk about it.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
So the practice is that we look at last year's surplus, after the audit's done, Lewis presents what's the surplus to your fund balance, and in last year it was about $1.2 million. So practice has been, since we started the
hang on.
180-day reserve policy.
Before you do it, I want
Oh.
to stop.
Okay.
Just again, for public and everybody to understand, that means we had $1.2 million.
That we came over on revenues and under on expenditures.
Right. So we ended up
So-
with $1.2 million in the bank that we didn't plan or budget for.
Yes. Yeah.
That's, I just want to be clear that everybody.
Oh,
that's
yeah, I apologize.
Expense control and additional income, I like the way that was worded.
Yes.
Both of those things working together creates that.
Yes, so that was about $1.2 million, and in practice, in the past couple of years, is that we've figured out what our operational budget's gonna be for general fund, we figure out what needs to be in that 180-day reserves, and then we dedicate a portion of that to that 180 days reserves. Until I have the budget finalized, it's kind of hard to figure out the 180 days, but there's plenty there. So that was kind of just to give an update on that. Also, before we did some of the revenue numbers, we had some other projects that might have had to be funded from available cash, so it's just another conversation to have about surplus funds. But it seems like everything's been settled on that, so this will just be an item that will come back after we approve the budget, the tax rate, and then it'll just be to designate the transfer into 180-day reserve fund. So,
I have a question.
yes.
What is, how much did it cost us to do away with garbage collection?
So.
What's the bottom line on that?
So the cost this year was about I'm sorry, not that good. I know a lot of numbers, but not that good.
Do 328 or 343?
Yeah, it was something.
Pretty close to that.
Yeah, it was
Doesn't have to
about
be
350.
exact.
About 350. Let's round it.
379, 116.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. So, and this year we were fortunate though, because there was enough. So the trash fund's its own fund, and because we collect street fees and that fund has grown, so we had enough cash to offset some of the transfer this year. So that's what we did.
That's a one-year offset, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Going forward, I've never put the street fee against the transfer. I will from now on, just so that that fund is just zeroing out every year, because it's really just it's an internal service fund, so.
So that was a really good benefit to the citizens.
Yes.
Huge benefit. I'm proud of that, of what you guys did. I'm wondering now if we should consider taking it a step further and doing away with the charges for the other trash that we get,
The recycling.
recycling.
That's-
I'm not sure how much that is. I'm sure not everybody
Yeah.
has recycling, and maybe it's
It's a,
50%.
it's a subscription based, sorry, that word. So it's an opt-in program, so people opt in. I think it's $7.11 a month right now, or about
Around there, yeah.
$7.38.
I've looked at it, it's about 55.
$7.69.
There's not that many
$7.69.
accounts using it. It's 55,000.
Yeah, I mean, we use it at our house. I'm happy to continue to pay that myself personally. It's an optional thing, it's a fun thing, you know, kind of doing your part thing, but it's not like garbage, which is required. You know, we mandate that people have garbage at their house, so.
Yeah, we flirted with it in the past, and
Yeah.
there wasn't a whole lot
I
of
like the
buy-in.
idea, but it's,
And it's a good point.
yeah.
It's a
Just
great
thinking
point.
about
Yeah, it
some-
is, yeah, it
Great
is.
point.
Good point.
thinking about some way that we can give back to the citizens our overage, and something that we can afford and be sustainable.
Well, we're continuing to maintain parks. We've added a third park. We're actually going to add some nice amenities, and we're going to continue to maintain those. And I agree, that's good stuff. We continue to host the parties. I mean, all those things that we do are ways that we return that.
Return that to the city.
This detention pond's going to be huge.
Yeah, it's gonna be
We're
nice.
at it.
Gosh, it seems like we've got a lot of stuff we're giving people that they don't even know about.
Yeah, you know, when you think about the trash, that when we implemented that, the average taxpayer in the valley was paying somewhere to the city in taxes, somewhere around $250 to $300. And then basically we gave that back to them by paying for their trash.
So we got, what, 2 years on the contract, Jeff?
Yes. 2025 is when that contract
We
ends.
got another 14% increase, basically. So before that's over, and then we don't know what the next contract's going to be.
I know everybody I talk to on my street is so happy about it and really can't believe we did it. We gave something back to them like that. I'd just like to do something more that they would realize that we're doing.
Don't tell them
But
to
like
talk,
you-
tell them to talk to the Woodlands about their water bills.
That's right.
Yeah,
And they'll learn real quick.
To save mud.
Save a lot of money on water, yeah.
Yeah.
And better police.
Oh, by far.
By
Yeah.
far.
do we want to circle back to number 4, or are we pretty
Yeah, we
much on
circle
the?
back to them.
Circle on
I think
4?
we're good for 4 now, yeah.
All right. We're done with the discussion on 6. We're jumping back up to number 4. Consensus regarding the property tax rate.
I think we have consensus.
We want to say what the,
I know I'm good with the NNR.
Should we lower it?
Vote.
No.
No.
And the only reason I say that is because we have a debt service, and we're pretty close to that right now.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think the
Yeah,
NNR.
we're just barely covering the debt service with this
Right.
rate.
Yeah.
And we're legally mandated to have enough money to pay that back so that the bondholders can pay it.
I think we're pretty good.
So we're good. We have a consensus
yeah, and we'll carry this over to the vote for
to
the
the
next
vote
meeting.
on the next meeting. All right. All right, so we're done. There's no executive session. So we're going to adjourn the special meeting at 6:23.